This podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only. The views expressed by the hosts are their own and should not be construed as definitive or factual.
Listeners are encouraged to conduct their own research and form their own conclusions. Discretion is advised as some topics may be sensitive or controversial. This is Babe, Let's Join a Cult. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Babe, Let's Join a Cult. I am your host, Nikai, and we got our other host,
Hello,
Blake. What are you doing?
I'm Blake. Grab my tea.
Oh, and I'm never ready. Anyways, today we are jumping into episode 13. Can you believe we've made it this far, babe?
I can believe you made it this far.
He's over it.
I'm not over it.
Babe's too busy potting.
It's not that I'm over it necessarily. I think it's nice to do this when we have a bunch of free. I mean, we never really had necessarily a bunch of free time, but I don't know. I like it. I'm glad people are listening. I think it's fun.
Yeah, something to do.
I think it's
Forces us
cool that
to hang out.
you were always more passionate about the subject than I always,
Mhm.
I think it's a cool subject and I'm glad we're talking about it. Um, maybe there's been a little bit of like redundancy as we get into it. It's like all these cults are so
Yeah, they're
they're
literally all
so
the
similar
same.
and they're such a clear mapped out and it just makes me go, how do we continue to fall for the same stuff
And there's
over and over
so
and over?
many.
And it's just repackaged. Um,
Yeah, they do all follow a
that's
pattern. Like the more I
yeah,
research every episode,
just
I'm
human
like,
nature, I guess.
yeah. It helps with the research though because I know the key points. Like it happened like this, and then this happened, then it started getting messed up here, and then
Right.
this is how it crumbled. So it is cool that you can see throughout history and just throughout people, the same arc and the same pattern continues to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not out of boredom by any means. Like I don't want to make it sound like that. It's not redundant in that sense of the word, but it just becomes repetitive as I listen to them and as I hear them and I'm like, "Come on, people.
Hmm. Well,
Darn
I
it."
mean,
You
even
know?
like when we're listening to true crime and like murder cases, like those get redundant too. Like
Totally. Yeah.
the wife kills the husband because she wanted this, or like
Yeah, it's like nothing.
this person kills the lover because they had a different lover, or it was money. And like,
Yeah.
I guess it's just human nature if you think about it. So with all things, repeating the pattern.
Yeah, and it's just as, folks that end up in cults become um immune or what's the word I'm looking for here?
Desensitized.
Desensitized to things. Like I'm almost becoming desensitized to the patterns of cults, just being like, oh, here we go again.
Hmm.
Whereas in the beginning it was like, oh my gosh,
No
look what's
way.
happening. Now I'm like, again,
Yeah, and it can be
these
something super
guys.
crazy and outrageous, and you're like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah. So
someone's bound to fall for it,
maybe
or
that's
someone's
the
bound to wind up in there.
maybe that's the experience that I'm going through. And then of course my interests right now are elsewhere with trying to really be engaged with this pottery business and it's the investment is, it's quite high,
Hmm.
and that's where I'm at with it, so
But anyways, we still
it's
made
nice.
time today to sit
Yeah,
down and talk about another cult case.
carve out some time,
Carve out some
and we're here
time.
because you care about it, and you love it, and you
I
wanna
like
continue.
it. It's fun. Sometimes I'm like, we gotta film today, and then we gotta upload and all the things. But I do. Then when I get to like talk to people in public who are like, I listened to that recent episode, it's really nice and it's really exciting, and I
Right.
enjoy doing it. Even though, yeah, it does. It takes a lot more work than you would think because there's all the
Mm,
research and there's all the editing and there's the carving out time to sit down and do it. But it's fun. I like it, and we've kind of found a flow. And I keep saying I'm gonna pre-record so we can get ahead, and it
and we
never
don't. We
happens.
don't we don't pre-record at all.
Oh, I have like 3 episodes right now.
Yeah. Well, and we'll want to consider doing that. I guess it depends on how I end up. I'm in the process of replacing, kinda liquidating some of the media gear that I had in favor of focusing more on pottery, and so, as I do that, the gear that we have becomes more and more limited, and there may be times where we lapse, having a lens as I'm kind of selling and replacing and, getting things that fit more of what we're doing now.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
it wouldn't
so
hurt.
we might just have some audio episodes coming up, which is
Yeah,
no biggie anyway.
that's
I mean,
fine.
it is
People
a podcast.
right. I think it's a luxury to see our
Beautiful
bright smiling
faces.
faces and our pottery.
Wow, babe
You
broke
wouldn't
out
be
a
able to do that.
mug.
You wouldn't be able to do that if it was just voices. I'd be like talking about pottery. You'd be like, what a nerd. But now you can see it
Yeah.
in real time.
This is one of his new
Ooh.
mugs from our newest kiln
Ah.
fire. I also try to repost it on the Instagram. If you don't follow us already, you can follow Babe Let's Join a Cult on Instagram, where I do repost Key and Kiln Babe's pottery, just so the followers can see it too, since he talks about it so much.
Shameless plugs here.
Shameless plugs, but also it's cool. Got to
Yeah,
support our other side hustles with another side hustle.
totally. I mean, that's, you know, we're just trying to make it here.
Oh,
We're,
we just got too many
yeah.
hobbies.
Well, and that's awesome. I think it's great that we're pursuing things that we're excited about and passionate about instead of just, you know, the normal day in and day out. So,
Yeah, a normal 9 to 5. No, instead
yeah,
I'm stuttering my way through quickly researched episodes on things I find interesting.
exactly.
And,
And I'm here for
you
you.
guys are here with me through each stutter. Fuck.
I force you to glaze fucking pots and mugs and shit with me, and you force me sometimes to sit here and participate
And then upload my videos.
and then upload and edit and do the things.
He's the media
So
guy.
anyway, we've been rambling about, our lives and the difficulties of them, and they're not that hard subjectively.
No, it's fun.
So
It's worth it.
we enjoy it. We're glad to be here, and it's a nice reminder that we're doing what we love, and that's pretty special. Not everybody can say that.
Yeah, and it's cool to have support from so many people. Oh, speaking of people, I'll just say it really quickly before we dive into this episode. I was telling Blake earlier, but I'm pretty sure I met a real, like, old cult leader at one of my jobs today. Just a little old guy who came through telling me about his life and his beliefs and his teachings. And I guess he used to like go around spreading his teachings, and he's an earth angel sent here to teach people. It was nuts. The interaction was nuts. He was super sweet and it was really awesome to talk to him. But I was like, this guy for sure had a cult. Like he had to have.
Yeah, he was talking about disciples or followers and
Yeah,
stuff,
about
right?
like his followers, but he would like say followers and then switch it to like congregation. I'm like, your followers, sir. I'm well versed in the topic.
It's cool to experience that firsthand, where someone speaks to you about something they believe in with such conviction, and such like it's clear that
Yeah, he was
they so fundamentally believe it and they're willing to, spread that and promote that and push that. And then they've had followers and they've had people that,
and he
looked
was
up to them. And
so like he was so charming and like this cute little old guy, and like the way he talked to me, obviously like my beliefs don't coincide, but like the way he was talking about it, I was like, "Oh, yeah, like
hmm
way to go, man. Like way to be passionate about it." Like I wanted to support him in whatever he was doing, cuz he was just like the energy about him. Um, but it was really cool and it was kind of fun. It's fun to be able to make these um what's the word? It's fun to be able to like see these things because now I'm looking at it like on a more scoped level,
right.
to be able to kind of draw it out of just everyday conversations and everyday life. All I think about is cults
Yeah.
24/7.
Well, another caveat to that is, he may be he may have been a cult leader. He may have just been someone who believes so purely in whatever he believes in that he's able to spread that message and cares enough to want to, push that message
Mhm.
forward and contribute to the world in a way, which, if you boil down what he was saying, it was that controlling your perspective and your thoughts aids in having a happy life.
Yeah, and that's what he was
And that's
talking about, just
awesome.
like having a positive mindset in your energy and your chakra, but then also spiritual believings and
But
yeah.
it's cool because you said he kind of emanated this like energy and this charisma and this
Mhm.
positivity, and you know that's good. We should all want to emulate that
Yeah.
level of enthusiasm for what we're doing and who we are and why we're here.
Yeah, I'm just so curious. I hope to see him again because I want to get more on just his life story, because he like traveled with a group of people who to spread their beliefs and teachings. And I know he had like a he mentioned having like an online presence for a while too with
Yeah,
it, just like through his website where he could spread his teachings, which like are all things I've seen in these cult cases, but it was
right.
interesting to talk to him and he was super sweet. Whether or not he was a cult leader, I just think he
It's yeah,
could have been a good one.
that's the lens you're looking through.
Mhm.
Dang, I'm just realizing that I'm wearing half cabs with low cut socks, and it just looks weird.
Oh, no. They're gonna disown you?
I know, I
The
can't believe it. I
people
mean,
on
I'm
YouTube?
not covered in clay, and I'm wearing low cut socks with half cabs. Oh no,
Your hat's covered
I'm
in
not even a
clay.
real Potter. Oh, good. Thank God.
Hang on.
Thank the cult leader of them all.
Yes. Uh,
Ah, hallelujah.
anyway, should we hop in?
No, let's ramble more.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Oh.
Yeah, let's go.
Oh, well, anyways, I
I
was
got
just gonna
pots to
say
trim. Damn it, chop chop.
I know. He's
Get
just
to it.
shaking, sitting here thinking about all the pottery he could be doing.
Yeah.
Well, that's good because this is a pretty compared to a lot of the cases, I wanna say it's like a pretty cut and dry case.
Mm.
It should go quick. I just thought it was interesting, because of locations, and you'll see why. But anyways, this is episode 13
Woo.
titled oh, woo! Oh, crisp high fives.
Mhm.
Titled "The Messiah of New Mexico." Also, did you live in New Mexico?
Good old Albuquerque
Ah,
for 2 whole years, as long as I lasted there.
it's a long time for you.
It was really like a year and a half.
Well, anyways, jumping in, maybe you'll know where this was.
Yeah. Maybe.
There's a remote compound in New Mexico desert, a place once home to a group that believed they had found the final truth, a city of the righteous, waiting for the end of the world. And at the center of it all was one man, Wayne Bent, a former pastor who declared himself the Messiah. His followers abandoned their lives, their families, and their identities to serve his vision. But as the years passed, the secrets inside Strong City began to surface, secrets of control, devotion, and a leader whose divine authority led to disturbing allegations. What really happened inside of Strong City? And how did one man convince so many to surrender everything? Today, we're diving into the story of one of the most mysterious and controversial doomsday cults in modern history. Have you heard of it before?
Nope.
No. It also went by the Lord Our Righteousness Church. That's its other name. Strong City or Lord Our Righteousness
That
Church.
was probably the longest eye roll I've ever done as an adult.
It is, but I just wanted to give you guys the two
The
cult names.
deets.
Yeah,
Lord
because
Our Righteousness cult.
Lord Our Righteousness, when I was researching, it would flip flop between the two names, so it was a little confusing for me. So I thought I'd just lay it out first.
Man, these people just like needed a hug or something, you know?
Or a hobby. You should teach them to do pots.
Or a hobby.
Hobby. They just needed
They
something.
needed something than Lord Our Righteousness.
They needed pottery.
Fuck.
Wayne Bent wasn't always a self proclaimed messiah. Born in 1941, Bent grew up in a devout Seventh day Adventist family, a religious upbringing that deeply shaped his worldview. His early years were steeped in strict Christian teachings, emphasizing end of times prophecy, discipline, and unwavering belief in the divine guidance.
All right, pause really quick. I just have one thought.
Mhm.
If, as an adult, you, without question, fundamentally, wholeheartedly, undeniably believe what you were taught as a child, and you never once stepped outside that frame of reference
Mhm.
or looked in the mirror to reflect on the things that you were told to believe, there may be something wrong there. Just going to point that out. Like, if you've never had to question where you came from, why you came from that place, or why you were, I don't know, like why that structure existed for you,
And why it's the only
I
one.
advocate that you just consider that there may be an opportunity for growth, you know?
Mhm.
It's like we're given these things as children to then question and evolve and grow and expand.
And
And if you
also just
don't do that, you might,
personalize.
yeah, like exactly, like integrate and personalize. But the way you truly integrate something and you have to make it your own, You do that by self-reflection, you do that by questioning what you were given.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's not your own, you're just perpetuating what someone told you, and you are also being controlled by your own belief system and your
Mhm.
belief structure.
It's like you have to, like, try new things to figure out, like, if you like them.
Yeah, if
It's
you're just
simple as
like, "This
that.
is wrong and forever it's wrong," or "This is right and forever it's right," and there's nothing outside of that, you can't like,
How do you compare
that's not a
how do
life.
you know what you like, what you dislike? Like,
Right.
how can you just yeah, compare is the biggest thing.
But maybe I'm just the devil.
Maybe you're just
Maybe
crazy.
I'm just
It's like
speaking
to,
I
like,
don't
dumb
know.
it down or, like, put it in girl terms, it's like, in my head, if you for dated one guy, like, when you were really young, and then throughout your life, and you're like, "Ah, this is it." Like, how do you know? Like, like, there's more fish in
Yeah,
the sea, like,
that's
there's
a
more
perspective for sure. Or
there
like to even simplify it further, it's like imagine growing up thinking that strawberries are bad for you
yeah.
and you never try strawberries and you never grow strawberries and you never develop your own relationship with strawberries. Someone just said, "Hey, strawberries aren't good for you."
And you're like,
And you're
"Oh,
just like,
okay."
"Okay, they're bad." And
Mhm.
everyone else should know that they're bad and I'm going to continue spreading the word that
That strawberries
strawberries
are
are bad.
bad,
Period.
which sucks because I love strawberries.
Right. You're never
Oh,
open to perspective and then you're also told that anybody who likes
is
strawberries
bad.
is bad. So it's like, how do you ever really open your mind or evolve to that? And I understand that maybe having an open perspective isn't everyone's cup of tea, but why?
But you can
Why
have it
not?
to, like, some degree. You don't have to be open about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it gets suffocating,
Yeah, I feel like
probably the
that's a
best word.
rabbit hole that we've talked about a couple of times. Just, like, close
Yeah.
perspective and
Well,
close-mindedness.
that's how you end up in these situations, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Anyways,
Yeah, continue.
as a young man, Bent pursued ministry, becoming an ordained Seventh-day Adventist pastor. I can never say that.
That's a mouthful of words anyway.
For years, he preached within the mainstream church, delivering sermons about faith, obedience, and the impending return of Christ. But something changed. Bent.
Is he ever coming back? I just, we're waiting. We've been waiting for a long
Should we
time.
our cult well, because you know how cults always, like, they have the prophecy and then it doesn't happen and they're like, "Wait, wait, wait, new
Yeah, and they
prophecy."
course correct. They're
Yeah,
open minded to a point because they're able to course correct when their shit doesn't fucking pan out.
but it's literally that, like, the new cult's like, "Nah, he's coming back now," and then they're like, "Just kidding," and then the
Yeah,
next
it's the
cult's
next
like,
one. No, no,
"No,
no, it's
he's
the
coming
next one.
back."
No, no, it's the next spaceship hiding next to that meteor. It wasn't the last one that came through.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You're
but,
like,
like,
what?
after you ascend, but you won't ascend this time, but,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, it's
that
further.
time.
Yeah, he's coming back. Well, he was supposed to come back then, but he's gonna come back later. Maybe he's already here and we don't know.
But we'll know because 'cause he'll send a sign.
But you
It's
got to
just
stay with us and give us all your money and not talk to any of your family and friends and ensure that all of your resources come our way. Because when he comes back, he's coming to us.
and that's what he's gonna want.
You're like,
And that's our cult right there. Let us know if
I
you wanna
bet you he's
join.
just out there eating fucking strawberries, man.
Yeah, because maybe he likes them.
I've been noticing that I've been getting more and more comfortable, and so I swear more on our podcast
Yeah,
because I
well,
just get more impassioned by the subject of being like, "Come on, people, eat strawberries."
we'll get you a shirt that says "Eat
Eat
strawberries."
strawberries, and no one will know what we're talking about.
Try the strawberries. Now I lost where I was.
Eat strawberries, buy our pottery.
Yeah, buy our pottery. You never know until you do. Uh, be open-minded.
Be open minded. Try a
Oh,
pot.
oh, yeah, yeah. But something changed. Bent began to believe that he wasn't just a messenger of God, he was God's anointed one. There's so many anointed ones.
What's the difference?
He's specially picked.
Oh, he's like extra close to God.
Yeah, like all of them, all the cult leaders that we've talked about.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally. Me too.
Same as that's why I stutter.
Forgot about that. That's so good. God's channeling through me.
My poor connection.
It's getting a little fuzzy. It's getting a little fuzzy. You said like it's getting a little fuzzy between me and God right now. And just
Yeah.
da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, yeah. He went through a tunnel. I lost it.
He's
I stuttered.
traveling. God's traveling right now. His reception's not great.
God, spiritual, divine, whatever our cult's believing in.
Correct.
Because
We've had a lot of God ones
a lot
lately.
of them have been pretty God heavy, but some are
Yeah.
like extraterrestrial or spiritual or
Yeah.
beings.
I think all of them have that some connection to a spiritual divine. I don't think we've done a cult that was like lacking in that.
That's kind of like part of it.
The cult
That's a
thing.
big part of, like, how they get their followers.
Yeah, because you need some
Some, like,
you need something
prophecy
you
or, like,
can't
higher
prove.
power.
Yeah, you need something you can't tangibly prove to claim you're in connection to, and that's why you have this, like, authority.
Yeah, because then it can't be proved wrong that you're in connection with it, right?
Nice, nice. Look at
Yeah.
us learning as we go.
Wow. This is a very
Hey, there you know.
informational
If
episode.
someone ever says that they possess something that is intangible and you cannot prove it, that might be a red flag. I'm not saying that spirituality is only intangible terms, but that's a little note for future.
Yeah. And to each their own.
I'm just sick and tired of it, you know.
We're just tired of hearing
I
about these
only I
cults.
only believe in the tangible
Pottery.
pottery.
Oh my gosh. Whatever makes you happy.
Yeah.
Just don't do bad things to good people or cults. Um,
Sorry, I'm gonna sit back for a while.
yeah.
Enjoy.
Yeah, because now I lost where it was again.
I
Oh,
know.
he was the anointed one. His interpretations of scripture grew more radical, and eventually he parted ways with the church, convinced that the organized religion had strayed from the truth. With this newfound sense of divine purpose, Bent started gathering followers, preaching a message of righteousness, separation from the world, and a preparation for the end of times. What started as a spiritual movement would soon morph into something much darker, a tightly controlled community where Bent's word was law and obedience was absolute. Before the world knew them as Strong City, Wayne Bent and his followers were simply a group of deeply religious individuals searching for something greater. In the 1980s, Bent, now referring to himself as Michael Trevesser, began forming a community of believers who shared his conviction that the world was on the brink of destruction. These early followers were mostly former Seventh day Adventists who felt delusioned with mainstream Christianity and were drawn to Bent's apocalyptic teachings. In the beginning, their gatherings were intimate, private Bible studies, discussions about the end of the days, and a growing belief that Bent had been chosen for a divine purpose. He taught that they were part of a remnant, a small, faithful group that would survive the coming tribulations while the rest of the world perished. The movement was nomadic at first, with followers leaving behind their jobs, possessions, and previous lives to dedicate themselves fully to their newfound faith. Over time, Ben's grip on the group tightened. He insisted that his words were direct messages from God, and his followers began to see him as more than a mere preacher. They believed he was living oh, they believed he was a living vessel for divine truth, someone who could guide them to salvation. As their numbers grew, the group sought a place to prepare for the final days, leading them to the remote plot of a land in Union County, New Mexico. Do you know where that is? No. No mic for Bib? Okay. It was here they would establish what they believed to be their holy sanctuary, later known as Strong City. I put this part in because I was excited about it, and I didn't know it until I had already started researching this cult. Before settling in New Mexico, Wayne Bent and his followers spent time in Sandpoint, Idaho, a small isolated town in the northern part of the state, around 20 miles outside of Sandpoint on Rapid Lightning Road.
What a
I
surprise.
know.
Back then too, I feel like this place was a hotspot for cultish behavior, and I mean it's always been a hub for very intense religious structure and indoctrination, but
Yeah.
especially back then.
If you don't know, we're in Sandpoint, Idaho, but I'm pretty sure everyone knows. Uh, I was talking to someone who is a local. I'm a local, like I have a couple generations born and raised here, but I was also talking to someone who was born and raised here, and I had mentioned this cult was like 20 miles off Rapid Lightning Road. And if you live here, you probably know where that is. And he was like, "Which one?" It's like there's been a couple up that
Yeah.
road. He's like, "There's still posted signs for some that were up there."
Really?
Yeah, about like just like the group organizations.
That reminds me of my favorite billboards are the ones that like some Jesus related saying or some God related saying, like I don't know. Well, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. You know, like just a big ass billboards in the middle of nowhere. It's like God loves you. Call us today or something.
Mhm.
I'm always like, What the fuck? Who are you getting in that
Yeah,
moment, you
who's
know?
out here?
Am I, like, driving through the middle of nowhere just being like, "My fucking life is shit," and then I see that and I just go, "Ugh,
Yeah.
ugh," you know? I'm like,
Maybe
"How
that's what
much
money
money are you spending
needs.
on that billboard, bro?
Maybe they're
Couldn't you be
cheap because 'cause they're
feeding a fucking
desolated.
homeless person or something?"
But, I just thought it was funny, and I've I go up Rapid Lightning quite a bit, especially in the summer, uh, and it does get a little sketchy the further you go up there. It's pretty out there.
Yeah, it's just like
It's
any
just people who
fucking
wanna be,
dirt
like,
road.
left alone, which is pretty common for anywhere outside of Sandpoint.
Yeah, totally. Just like multi-generational homes that have people
Yeah,
are just kinda have
like,
these properties out there.
they might shoot you if you trespass, but, it's normal.
It's Idaho.
It's Idaho. Wild, wild west. Um, so 20 miles up Rapid Lightning Road, they attempted to create a haven where they could live separately from the influences of mainstream society. It was during this period that the group, still known as Lord Our Righteousness Church, deepened their beliefs in spiritual purity and the imminent apocalypse. However, the locals of Sandpoint began to feel strange about the group. Since the talk of cults had become more mainstream in the media since the recent downfall of Heaven's Gate cult, the townspeople of Sandpoint were on high alert, especially to a group of outsiders reflecting similarities to cults. The locals eventually pushed out the group, raising suspicion around them, so Bent and his followers left the area in search of a more secluded place to call home. They were here super briefly because locals were like, out. Which is like, if you're in Sandpoint, that's pretty normal still, just to like anyone from California.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. People are more and more welcoming now. At least our generation. I feel like the younger crowd is.
Yeah, it's like the older crowd. Go home.
Yeah.
Hi, Moo. See you later. Once the group was established in New Mexico, Wayne Bent's control over his followers became absolute. Bent claimed to receive direct revelations from God, which he used to justify increasingly extreme demands. Followers were required to abandon their families, renounce personal relationships, and surrender their autonomy to Bent's authority. This is a side note, but before Bent had begun forming his cult, in his earlier days, he went through a training called S training, a self improvement program. The
Mm,
tactics he learned there, he carried on to use in his own following
there you
teachings.
go.
Keep an eye out for a mini episode so we
Nice.
can
Layering that
drop
one in. That's
in to
cool.
learn a little bit more about S training and how cult leaders use it and the similarities that they share with it.
That'll be cool.
Yeah,
I
have you
like
heard
that.
of it? You've done like weird trainings.
Yeah, we talked about that in a previous episode. No, I haven't heard of S training.
Yeah, S training, but it's EST. EST.
Oh. I think if I knew the full
It's the name of the person who came up with it. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
um yeah, if I knew the full what the full
Mhm.
acronym? Yeah, I think that
No,
is
I just know
EST.
that you've done a couple, like, self-improvement
A
programs.
lot of those like perspective transforming trainings all derive from a similar
Mhm,
kind of lineage of education. And I think that that's where a lot of like it's a very powerful manipulative tactic. And it's not always used manipulatively, but it can be because you're able to take someone's opinions and restructure and
mhm,
reframe them and reform them and
to how
then
you
kind
want
of get
them.
them to see what you want to see and go the route you want to go. And it's funny because you put them in a place of like kind of forcing them to be open-minded and then you can interject
Mhm,
your factual beliefs.
mhm, and then where you need it to be
Factual.
closed.
Yeah, and then you can close it off for them and then, get them to do what you want them to do.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that he's had some training. I feel like that's what a lot of religion is too.
Mhm, and he went through that training before starting the group, kind of when he was in his early times of becoming a pastor. He went through this training, but it was, like, strongly talked about that he still implemented a lot of these tactics, and he really had high praise for this program that he went through. That's why I wanted to pop it in and then talk about deeper later because it was interesting, and there's quite a few cults that have used similar training tactics.
Mhm. Yeah. What was the one that I did on? Steve Ranieri? No.
Oh,
Steve?
no, uh, Ranieri, yeah.
Yeah. I don't
Oh,
remember his
wow,
first
why
name.
am I drawing a blank? Mark? No.
No.
White guy name?
Guaranteed. Anyway,
Anyways,
go ahead.
Raniere from Nixium.
Yeah,
Yeah.
'cause that's all that was. He
Yeah,
was just a
it was
self-help.
a self-help
That one
program
wasn't
training.
religious based, that was just a self-help program.
Yeah, it was just based around him, and that one was
Mhm,
creepy
mhm. It was creepy.
and terrifying because of how large it was.
Massive, yeah. He amassed a
Yeah,
ton of followers and so much money.
and the legalities.
Yeah,
Anyways, if you
he had a lot
haven't
of
listened to
resources.
that episode's written by Babe and given to us by Babe, and it was really well done, a great episode. So I'd highly recommend going back and giving that one a listen.
Thanks, my dear. Appreciate that.
Yeah, that was when I was still stuttering way too much. Uh, anyways,
Yeah, you're better now.
I am better now. Slow and deep breaths.
There you go. That's the key to life, I think, actually.
Mhm. You're welcome. One of the most disturbing aspects of Strong City was Bent's concept of spiritual marriages, where he claimed that certain women, even underage girls, his sisters in laws, and followers' wives, were divinely chosen to be bonded to him under the guise of purification and spiritual awakening. He engaged in deeply inappropriate interactions with these followers. Those who questioned or resisted his teachings were shamed, ostracized, or told they were rejecting God's will. There's a documentary. I watched the clips from it. There's a documentary where he's getting interviewed about this. They're like, you slept with your sister-in-law. And he like the way he was like, yeah, yeah, like like God told me to. I had to.
He was, like, reluctant
It
about it.
It was so uncomfortable to watch it, and then they, like, interview her too, and she's like, "Yeah, well, I just felt God wanted me to," and then they interviewed the husband, and he was like, "Yeah, I really wasn't happy with it, but, like, they said that, like, God wanted it." Like, it was so uncomfortable and weird to watch, and it was, like, his sister-in-law, and then sleeping with followers' wives, and the followers would get upset, and he's like, "Guys, like, I really didn't want to," like, and he would become, like, their shoulder to cry on about it. Be like, "I'm on your side, like, I didn't wanna do it, and I
Oh,
understand,
that's
but, like, God was telling
twisted.
me I had to,"
That
and
is
so he would be
twisted.
there to comfort these men after their wife cheated on them, be, like, their shoulder to cry on,
Oof.
when it was him.
Ugh, it's such a slippery slope and such a weird line to draw of, like, granted, there are things that are clearly wrong, like, that's wrong.
Yeah,
You're
underage
sick,
girls,
but they
people's
believe it,
wives.
right? And so what about this other flip side of just these societal norms and the things that we accept and the things that we say are right or wrong, and they're like, "Well, that's just God's will," and it's like, ah,
Yeah,
how? Why? What makes you think that's the case, you know?
and you can see, like, the pull on the followers that it affected, and also, like, how he portrayed it, like, it was really, like, this hard decision because it went against what, like, is socially normal, but, like, he can't go against God, and the way he played it out was, uh
And he did this to underage girls too?
yeah, like yeah, and you can watch these interviews where they're
Sick,
talking about
man.
it, and it's uncomfortable, it's awkward, and you're like, "What the fuck?"
Gross.
And yeah, he sticks to it. And
Sick fuck.
he, like, really is so like,
Was he put in jail? I hope he's in
so
jail.
dramatic about it. I was like,
Yeah, that's disgusting. What's wrong?
Mhm. Ben
But hey, you know
uh,
what? I'm gonna have an open mind because I think that's wrong. Maybe it's not wrong. Maybe there's another perspective on that where sleeping with somebody who's underage and using a religious authority to do so is
n
actually okay.
no.
Maybe.
No, no.
No, I mean, if
No.
I'm gonna tell our viewers and condition myself to be open minded, then I need to be open minded.
No, that's
And
illegal.
I don't know until I try. Why is it
Don't
illegal?
try.
You know, why is it illegal? Who says it's illegal?
I hate philosophy because of this so much.
There really is no limits
It
to
just goes around and around and
yeah,
around.
that is true.
Yeah, I took a philosophy class
Yeah.
in, like, the midst of all my very scientific classes, and I was like, this is everything that they told me not to do in all my science classes."
Yeah. Philosophy's had a unique place in history throughout history for
Yeah,
sure.
it's interesting. It's a love-hate relationship, really.
Yeah, and I mean a lot of early on philosophers, they were pretty highly frowned upon because it was such a religious
Mhm.
uh culture throughout history. Um, and they didn't want anybody questioning things. They didn't want anybody to have independent thoughts. They didn't want anybody experiencing life for themselves outside of the confines of the structures in place.
Yeah.
Church and state, baby. They don't want you to think for yourself. Just have kids, get married, and shut.
The F up.
Exactly.
Bent also enforced Bent also enforced severe fasting and isolation tactics to break down his followers mentally and physically. Some members were required to go days without eating to prove their spiritual devotion. He preached that suffering and sacrifice were necessary for salvation and ensuring his followers would become entirely dependent on him for survival. Meanwhile, Bent twisted scripture to manipulate his congregation into blind obedience. He convinced his follower that any doubts they had were Satan's attempt to corrupt them, and that only he had the wisdom to interpret God's word correctly. So please don't question it. This kind of mind control left many unable to see the abuse happening right in front of them. As reports of abuse and psychological torment grew, former members and concerned outsiders began reaching out to law enforcement. Investigations followed, leading to one of the most shocking moments in Strong City's history. Before we dive into that, this was early 2000s, so online presence was kind of becoming a thing. The Lord Our Righteousness, maybe then switched to Strong City Cult or Strong City, did have a website, and he would post like blog styles on it every day about like his preachings and his teachings, and followers were pretty cut off from everything outside worldwide except for this web forum, which they would like wait for every day so that they could log on and read like the blog post of the day, which was still like just reiterating his teachings. And I think I might be wrong, but I think that website forum is still around today. Like you can still find it.
Really?
Hmm.
Wonder who's paying for that website.
Yeah, I think it just is still happening. But yeah, it's interesting to see cults that like come about that early time where they can start using like the early website forums.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Anyways, as Bent's influence grew, so did the scrutiny from the outside world. Reports of inappropriate relationships, extreme fasting, and psychological manipulation caught the attention of authorities. In 2008, law enforcement intervened after allegations surfaced that Bent had engaged in unlawful contact with minors under the guise of spiritual unions. Despite his followers defending him, authorities moved forward with the charges. Bent was arrested and convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison for criminal sexual contact with a minor and contributing to the delinquency of a minor.
Great.
The
Awesome. 10 years is not enough.
no. Though he maintained that his actions were directed by God, the courts saw things differently. With their leader in prison, the once devoted followers of Strong City began to drift away. By 2012, Strong City was effectively abandoned. The compound, once filled with devoted followers, stood nearly empty. Some former members attempted to keep the faith alive, but without Bent's direct influence, the movement began to crumble. Today, the remnants of Strong City are nothing more than a desolate reminder of what was once a thriving, radical community built on the words of one man. Wayne Bent's story is a cautionary tale about the unchecked power, absolute devotion, and the dangers of religious extremists. What started as a, what started as a search for divine truth became a story of control, manipulation, and ultimately collapse. His followers surrendered everything only to watch their so called paradise fall apart. So, what do you think, babe? Was Wayne Bent a misunderstood prophet or just another cult leader that took things too far?
Well, I'm going to agree here with the judicial system and say that he was fundamentally a piece of shit.
Yes. Yeah. And
So, yeah, there's that for me.
it's interesting because this cult doesn't breach a whole lot of legalities like as many as our previous cases did, where there's like murder and torture and all these things. It was mostly just the sexual conduct, which is
Yeah,
horrible.
he's raping children.
Yeah, but that
That's kind of all there is to it. That's enough for me.
luckily luckily, that was caught relatively quickly. I feel like there's a
Mm.
lot of cults where that gets pushed under the rug,
Yeah,
but they
right.
get caught for something more extreme.
Right.
So it was nice to see something that was caught, like, right away with that
Yeah.
instead of previous ones we've looked at.
Right.
But yeah, that's just a pretty I think that cult's like a pretty baseline
Mhm.
of the pattern and the arc style that we see. It's not super uh crazy dark, it's not super crazy beliefs, like more than they already are.
Right. Yeah,
It
that checks out.
luckily the abuse was limited compared to some that we see. Still horrible that it happens, still left an imprint on lives, but um yeah, not as crazy as we've talked about before.
Yeah, but still, I mean, that's good enough.
Yeah, and it started as just, a group of people branching off of their religion, which I'm pretty sure Seventh day Adventists are already a branch off of some other religion. I could be wrong. But they were just branching off and then incorporating their own beliefs. And then, that's how cults start.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you end up thinking you're God and that it's okay to touch kids.
Yeah. And that's not good.
No, that's not how that works.
No, don't do
That
that.
is not that's not the math that adds up for me.
No math.
Yeah, bad math.
Bad math.
Mm,
But yeah, babe. So,
alright.
this,
No.
no, yeah, I
Nope.
know.
Yeah, you know, that's the
Uh,
question. I'm not into it. I'm not into that
He's
one
not
at all.
joining.
Nope. Thank you though. I appreciate the offer.
I like to ask after every
Yeah.
episode as
We
part of it.
yeah.
But anyways, guys, that was this
I
week's
get very
episode.
yawny during our podcast. I think I just get to sit down and chill out and
Yeah.
listen to you talk. It's very soothing.
Do you listen to me talk or do you just zone out?
I hear the important parts. No, I
Yeah, that's
listen.
what
I
I
try
thought.
really hard.
It's like our everyday conversations too.
No, I'm there. I'm there for those.
Unless he's doing pottery. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was this week's episode. Keep an eye out for a mini episode.
Yeah,
I
that'll be
will
exciting.
work on filming that.
Mhm.
That's the hardest part.
If you just do audio, it's not too bad.
Yeah, those are just gonna be audio. Babe's not gonna be here for those. He's gonna be off potterying.
Yep.
But yeah,
You can set up in the pottery studio and I can just throw while I listen to
he
you.
can throw in the background while I'm podcasting. Honestly, that might be what this cult is gonna have to turn into.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Yeah, so if the background changes, it's because I can't get him out of the studio.
Or, we set up outside when the weather gets better and then I have like an excuse just to sit outside and hang out,
That's true. Yeah, I
you
might
know?
switch it up
Yeah.
depending on what we're vibing with.
We'll have fun with it.
Yeah, but thanks for joining in on this episode.
As always, we appreciate it.
We appreciate it.
Mhm.
If you haven't, I think we mentioned it before, but if you haven't, check out Key and Kiln on Instagram. Check out the shop site, see
Yep,
what Babe's been up
website's
to.
cranking.
Yeah. Also,
Yep.
if you don't already, give us a follow at Babe Let's Join a Cult
Yeah.
on
Like a
Instagram.
comment, a
Yeah.
follow.
Like,
You know
comment,
how it
review.
works. I watch so much stuff and I don't like and follow and I don't always
I
subscribe,
like and
so I
follow
get
and
it.
subscribe
I
to the ones I
appreciate that.
really like,
Yeah.
especially my podcasts.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Either way.
Thank you
Appreciate
either
you.
way. We're doing our bestest.
All right. Bye, nerds.
See you later. This episode of Babe Let's Join a Cult is sponsored by Tea Tree House Teas, and let me tell you, we've been obsessed. I've been drinking their Vita Long Chai lately, and it's perfect for the season. The Lung Love blend is on deck as cold season kicks in. Tea Tree House makes these unique botanical blends that are gorgeous from start to finish with some serious magic, like their butterfly infusion that turns blue and sparkles. Plus, every tea is ethically sourced, sustainably grown, and packaged in reusable, compostable containers so that you feel good with every sip. And get this, with each purchase, they plant a tree to help protect endangered plants. It's like a small little ritual with a big impact. You can get yours at teatreehouse.com and use our code BabeLet'sJoinACult for 10% off. That's BabeLet'sJoinACult at teatreehouse.com. And trust me, you'll find your new favorite tea so you can be drinking the tea and not the Kool-Aid.